Just as the captain was about to board the plane, a service dog suddenly refused to let him onto his own flight, causing outrage among passengers due to the delay. But when security inspected the cockpit, what they discovered made them contact the FBI immediately. And what happens next would have you running for your life if you were on that flight. The snow drifted sideways in gusts of wind that howled through the cracks of the massive sliding doors at LAX International Airport, where blinking arrival boards flickered under pale fluorescent light and travelers in heavy coats rushed between terminals with a sense of urgency. Near Gate 8, Officer Camila Rodriguez stood motionless, her gloved hands cupped over her mouth as she breathed warm air into her palms, trying to keep the chill from crawling up her spine. Her ocean blue eyes looked around the station, but never took their eyes off the dog sitting next to her. Rocky, her loyal K9 partner, sat still and alert, his breath forming white clouds in the freezing air, while his eyes scanned each face, each movement, every shuffle in the crowd with that uncanny instinct Camila had come to trust without question. The airport was unusually chaotic. Delayed flights, long lines, weather warnings. But none of that explained the tightness in Camila's chest as she adjusted her vest and clipped her radio. Something felt off. And when Rocky's ears perked up, his head snapping toward the far hallway leading to Gate 12, Camila didn't question it. She just nodded once, and they moved forward together, into whatever was waiting. Camila's boots crunched lightly against the salted floor tiles as she followed, weaving through the early travelers gathering near Gate 12. The hum of rolling luggage and muffled announcements filled the air, but Rocky was zeroed in, his body tense, his head lowered like a missile locking onto its target. And then they saw him. A tall man in a sharp pilot's uniform, cap angled perfectly, silver wings pinned precisely above his heart, strode confidently through the corridor with his flight bag slung casually over one shoulder. His name tag read, Josiah Campbell. On the surface, he looked every part the seasoned professional, but Rocky stopped cold and growled, low and deliberate, standing squarely in the pilot's path. Camila's hand instinctively tightened around the leash. Her voice was calm but firm. "Sir, I need you to stop right there." The pilot paused, clearly caught off guard, his brow furrowing in surprise as passengers behind him slowed, whispering and peering over shoulders. "I'm with Flight 733. What's the issue?" he asked, smile tight and uneasy. But the Rocky's growl deepened as his eyes locked onto Campbell's midsection. And in that moment, Camila knew. This wasn't just protocol. This was something more. Campbell freezes, his polished shoes squeaking slightly as he recoils, startled and visibly thrown off script. His calm facade flickers for just a heartbeat before he throws his hands up in mock confusion, voice rising, tone laced with indignation as he protests loudly enough for nearby passengers to hear. "What is this? I'm scheduled for departure in 10 minutes. This is harassment." But Rocky doesn't move. His front legs brace the floor as he leans forward, head low, tail stiff, eyes locked on Campbell's chest, as if the very fabric of his uniform was whispering secrets only the dog could hear. He bares his teeth, not in rage, but in warning. Camila catches a glint off the man's ID badge. It shimmers too perfectly, too new. The shine feels rehearsed, like a costume. Without hesitation, Camila radios in for secondary screening. Her voice is even, authoritative, unshaken. Gate 12, requesting secondary check. Possible false credential. Escort in progress. The crowd parts in instinctive silence, creating a path for Camila and Rocky as they flank the pilot, whose pulse now beats visibly at his temple. Something isn't just wrong. It's about to explode into truth. Campbell, now seated under the sharp fluorescent light of the airport security room, tapped his fingers on the table with an overly precise rhythm. Like a man practicing calm, rather than feeling it. Meanwhile, Camilla studies him with narrowed eyes, her instincts prickling beneath the surface. Her chest tightens, not from fear, but from anticipation, because something beneath this man's exterior isn't sitting right. Rocky paces slowly behind the glass partition, his tail stiff, head lowered as he circles the room with a deliberate rhythm, nose twitching as if he's tracking a scent that the rest of them can't quite perceive. The scanner beeps clean, but Rocky stops in front of Campbell once more and lets out a short, clipped bark, staring directly at the knot of his tie, a spot most wouldn't think twice about. Camilla leans in, voice steady, almost coaxing. "Remove the tie, sir." Campbell hesitates, then slowly complies, unraveling it with trembling fingers. The fabric unfolds and falls limp until a sliver of metallic thread glints under the light. Camilla exchanges a glance with Rocky, then reaches for her radio again, her voice now clipped and urgent. "Requesting X-ray inspection. We may have something." The tie was laid flat on a conveyor belt that hummed softly as it passed into the X-ray machine. The technician's brow furrows, eyes darting between the screen and the glinting material embedded deep in the threads. Camilla leans over the technician's shoulder, heart thumping with a rhythm she hasn't felt since her academy days. Part adrenaline, part dread, all instinct. Rocky sits alert at the doorway, unmoving, like a statue carved from resolve, his gaze locked on Campbell, who now fidgets in his seat, the sweat on his temple glistening under the harsh lighting. The screen flashes, highlighting a rectangular object no larger than a paperclip, but clearly not benign. It's a tiny wire with a tiny receiver, and most importantly, a remote control switch. Camilla straightens, eyes narrowing as she makes a snap call. "Secure the subject, now." Two officers move swiftly to cuff Campbell as he jolts from his seat, his protest dying mid-breath. Rocky rises with a low growl, flanking Camilla's side like a shadow as she whispers to herself, "That's not just a device. That's a trigger." Campbell is escorted to a holding room, lined with metallic walls and a two-way mirror, the kind where truths unravel under fluorescent lights that buzz just slightly off-key. He's seated again, this time with his hands loosely cuffed, his breaths shallow and rhythmic, like a man counting down. Camilla enters with the quiet intensity of someone who's been here before, who's seen guilt sweat through tailored fabric. Her voice is calm, but her eyes scan like lasers, reading every twitch, every flicker of uncertainty. Campbell's left leg bounces, betraying the stillness in his face. Rocky steps in after her, silent but unmistakable, his claws clicking softly on the tile floor as he paces once more. This time slower, more deliberate. He circles the pilot like a warden does a prisoner, nose brushing the man's sleeves, chest, collar. Then he pauses, ears up, tail still, locked on the man's jacket buttons. The fabric smells wrong. Not of cologne or detergent, but of copper, oil, and something faintly electric. Rocky growls low, then lets out a sharp bark, facing Camilla like a soldier reporting in. Camilla tilts her head, signaling the tech team outside. "We're going deeper," she says, nodding to Rocky, who remains planted like a statue in front of Campbell. "Strip the jacket now." Campbell hesitates, too long, and in that hesitation, something crumbles. The lie begins to bleed through the seams, and Camilla, heart-pounding, knows they've just scratched the surface. The room falls quiet, except for Rocky's soft growl and the sharp click of the tech's gloves snapping into place. This pilot wasn't just hiding something. He was carrying it in plain sight. As Campbell's fingers reluctantly reach for the lapels of his jacket, the air in the room thickens with unspoken tension, the kind that hums low like static before a lightning strike. The fabric slides down his shoulders with a rustle far too loud for its weight, the silence around it suffocating. Camilla's breath holds for a split second, her hands clenched behind her back as she leans in, eyes fixed, not on the man, but on Rocky, her most trusted compass. Campbell, stripped of his outer shell, now looks smaller, no longer a pilot, but a man unraveling in front of truth's steady glare. Rocky doesn't need to sniff this time. He lunges forward just enough to press his nose against the inner lining, then recoils, ears back, teeth bared, and lets out a bark so sharp it pierces the mirror behind them. Then another, and another. He doesn't stop. The lining glimmers faintly, metallic threads braided like veins, tracing a rectangle over the shoulder seam. Hidden tech, embedded, alive. Camilla doesn't flinch. "Get the bomb squad. Now," she commands, her voice cutting through the fear. Rocky sits again, his tail stiff, his gaze never leaving Campbell's face, as if waiting for a final confession. In a dimly lit briefing room, federal agents cluster around monitors while Camilla and Rocky enter with purpose. Campbell sits under tighter watch now, no longer just a suspicious pilot, but a subject of national concern. Camilla feels her pulse echoing in her ears as she reads the initial report. Her jaw tightens with disbelief, because what the database reveals is not just disturbing, it's seismic. Campbell isn't who he claims to be. His prints match no active pilot registry, but trigger a match buried deep in an international watch list. Rocky, resting beside her, senses the shift. His ears perk as Camilla utters a name she never expected to read aloud again. Brooks Bennett. At the sound of her voice sharpening, Rocky rises, muscles taut, eyes scanning Campbell. No, Bennett, like he's recalibrating the threat. A side-by-side image appears on screen, Campbell's airport badge, and a grainy surveillance photo from Prague, dated 2 years prior. Same face, same eyes, different identity. Camilla steps away from the screen, her voice now steel. He's not a pilot, he's a ghost. Agents around her freeze, and in that moment of collective silence, the magnitude of what Rocky uncovered begins to ripple outward, like a fuse that's just been lit. The conference room hums with electronic static and overlapping voices as digital dossiers flood the monitors. Bennett's aliases, travel patterns, ghost trails from 5 different countries. The atmosphere crackles like live wire underwater. Camilla's eyes narrow as her fingertips hover above the tablet screen, absorbing every file like a puzzle that had always been in front of her, just missing the final edge piece. Then her hand stills. A photo, a timestamp, a detail she can't ignore. Her breath catches as memory and reality collide. Rocky shifts beside her, sensing the tension as Camilla mutters under her breath. This isn't the first time. She crouches, placing a hand gently on Rocky's thick neck. You smelled him before, didn't you? Rocky nudges her hand with his nose, affirming. Soft, steady, loyal. A mission report surfaces from a joint training exercise at Heathrow, dated last year. Rocky had flagged a maintenance worker who vanished before detainment. Same scent markers, same trace residue. Now Camilla realizes that ghost had a name. She stands abruptly, voice cutting through the noise. He's part of something bigger. He's moved through systems before. Find out what flights he worked. Across the room, an analyst looks up, pale. We found something? You'll want to see this. The control room dims as all eyes fixate on a paused frame. An infrared scan of the aircraft's forward cabin, its outlines glowing in spectral red. But beneath one seat, 12A, a strange shape flickers faintly, almost hidden in the metal lattice beneath the floor. Camilla feels the weight in her chest grow heavier with each breath, her heart pounding like a drum beneath her Kevlar. Her hands grip the edge of the table, knuckles pale. She doesn't blink, because what she sees confirms what she feared. Rocky sits behind her, motionless, but his ears tilt forward as if reading the silence. Then, with one deliberate movement, he rises and heads toward the aircraft, pulling at the leash like a compass drawn to danger. The bomb squad's camera crawls forward under the seat, and suddenly, the image sharpens. A device, no larger than a walkie-talkie, wired with copper threads, and an antenna, no thicker than a matchstick, fused discreetly to the plane's internal system. Camilla's voice slices through the comms. Evacuate the aircraft. Now, lock down the tarmac and alert the FAA. That's not just a device. That's a remote detonation relay. Outside, Rocky barks twice, sharp and deliberate, as emergency sirens flare to life and the runway floods with flashing lights, because now the countdown has truly begun. Meanwhile, inside the waiting room was heavily guarded. Brooks Bennett sits under the harsh glow of an overhead bulb, his shadow elongated across the cement wall like a ghost unwilling to fade. Sweat beads along his brow despite the cold, and a subtle twitch plays at the edge of his jaw. Camilla watches from the observation window, heart thrumming with dread and certainty. Her instincts scream that this man isn't finished, that something darker still lingers. Then a sudden movement. Quick, desperate. Rocky shifts beside her, letting out a sharp, urgent bark as his eyes lock onto Bennett's. Camilla snaps to attention. Inside the room, Bennett jolts forward, his body convulsing. He slams face first against the table, and Camilla sees it. A tiny capsule hidden under his tongue, half crushed and fizzing. Camilla lunges for the door, screaming into her radio. Medical team, now! Officers rush in as she and Rocky follow, Rocky barking with wild urgency, while Bennett gasps, eyes rolling back. A medic slams a syringe into Bennett's thigh just in time. He chokes, trembles, but breathes. And Camilla knows this wasn't just an escape attempt. It was silence in a capsule, and they stopped it by seconds. Back in the cabin, it remained eerily empty as bomb technicians in full protective gear crawled under the passenger seats with silent precision. Overhead lights flicker faintly, as if the plane itself were holding its breath. Camilla watches from the boarding bridge, fists clenched, her eyes locked on the technician's feed. Each second stretches like an eternity. Her breath is shallow, and Rocky stands beside her, tail stiff, gaze fixed. Rocky lets out a low growl, pressing his body closer to Camilla's leg, sensing her unease and matching it with his own alertness. Then, as if compelled by something unseen, he steps forward, nose lifted, ears pricked. A muffled voice comes through the comms. We've got something. Row 3, seat 12A, beneath the panel. A pause, then the words. Confirmed device. It's armed. Camilla slams the emergency call button, yelling into her comms. Lockdown now. FAA. Notify ground control. We have an active bomb. Rocky barks, once, sharp, then again, as sirens scream back to life and the tarmac erupts in organized chaos. Lives were just saved by instinct, fur, and a voice that never gave up. A dimly lit FBI war room lights up as new intelligence streams across massive monitors. A red digital map pulses with markers. 5 continents, 5 cities, 5 flights. Camilla stands at the center, still in her airport gear, with Rocky sitting loyally at her side. Fatigue wraps around her like a second skin, but adrenaline drives her forward. Her eyes scan the data. Names, airports, departure times. Each detail another potential tragedy averted by seconds. Rocky glances up at her, ears twitching, as if sensing her racing thoughts. She kneels, brushes his fur, and murmurs, "You didn't just save this plane, buddy. You might have saved the world." New intel decoded from the hard drive reveals that the plan was much larger. Coordinated strikes on 5 transatlantic flights in the next 24 hours. Camilla sends the intel to Interpol, and an international sting begins. Within hours, alerts go out to Japan, Germany, Taiwan, and the UK. Arrests are made, devices found, each one eerily similar. As Camilla watches the map slowly shift from red to green, she exhales for the first time in hours. Rocky rests, his head on her knee. The mission isn't over, but tonight, they pulled the world back from the edge. After hours of interrogation, Bennett finally gave up and revealed the location of the ringleader. The black SUV rumbled down a dusty back road just outside Los Angeles as the orange sunset cast long shadows across the barren farmland. An old barn stood out front, flanked by crooked fences and an old windmill that creaked in the wind. Camilla clenched her jaw as she checked her pistol. Windmill creaking in the wind. Camilla's jaw clenches as she checks her sidearm. Her stomach twists, not from fear, but from knowing what they might find inside. This wasn't just a hideout. It was a nerve center, a place where chaos was built in silence. Rocky shifts beside her in the back seat, ears perked and nose twitching. As they slow near the barn, he lets out a low growl, not aggressive, but alert, like he senses a heartbeat inside the stillness. A faint flicker of light blinks behind one of the boarded windows. Not candlelight, LED. Someone is inside. With a nod from the FBI lead, the team moves in, silent, swift, and precise. Camilla leads the charge. Rocky just steps behind, his muscles coiled. The barn doors burst open. Inside the barn's control room, fluorescent lights flicker over a cluttered desk strewn with blueprints, detonator schematics, and marked flight paths. The glow of a dozen screens bathes the room in a ghostly pallor. Camilla steps forward, breath held, heart pounding with the knowledge that they are walking into the beating heart of a nightmare. Her pulse roars in her ears, louder than Rocky's low growl beside her. Rocky lunges forward, but halts when Camilla whispers, "Easy, boy." His body stiffens as he locks onto the woman at the desk, a solitary figure typing furiously, back turned, unaware she's no longer alone. A screen suddenly goes black, then another. She's deleting evidence. The countdown clock in the corner reads, 2:22. Camilla raises her weapon. "Hands where I can see them." The woman freezes. A slow turn reveals her, calm, composed, but with eyes that burn cold. Her hand hovers over a red key, but Rocky's growl deepens, daring her to move. She lifts her hands. Camilla rushes forward, shoving the chair aside. Rocky watches the screens fade to black. Too close, but not too late. The raid was a success, but Camilla knew they still had a lot of work to do. The next morning, Camilla, now sitting next to Rocky, stared at the main screen in the FBI CyberOps command room with its real-time satellite map. Her jaw clenched, her brow furrowed, as lines of code deciphered the intelligence gathered from the raid on the farm last night. Her stomach churns, not from fear, but from urgency. Rocky rests at her feet, eyes trained on the glass, unmoving, except for the occasional flick of his ears. Like even he understands the gravity of what's unfolding. A blinking alert zooms in on a global map. 5 blinking red dots appear across Japan, Taiwan, Germany, England, and the United States. 5 pilots, 5 threats, 1 synchronized timeline. "We have less than 6 hours, Camilla says, rising to her feet, voice steel-edged. She turns to the international task force now gathering behind her. "We move now. All 5 ops go live simultaneously." Rocky stands, muscles coiled. Around the world, 5 teams prepare to strike. The clock is ticking, and hope rides on precision. That afternoon, she returned to LAX. The terminal bustles with resumed flights and relieved passengers, but Camilla and Rocky aren't done. Not yet. The sun filters through security windows, illuminating the tiles where it all began. Camilla feels the heaviness of resolution settling in her bones, but her eyes scan the crowds with a sharpened edge, haunted by how close they came. There's no room for assumption. Not now. Not ever again. Rocky, unprompted, veers off toward the flight crew restroom, a space already cleared supposedly. His nose inches forward, posture sharp, ears forward with unwavering focus. He stops near a ceiling tile just above the sink and begins to bark. Short, rhythmic, deliberate. Camilla rushes in, heart catching in her throat. Maintenance is called, a ladder brought, and the tile eased open. Behind it, an unmarked hard drive wrapped in thermal foam. The FBI arrives swiftly, logging the evidence, and when they plug it in, the contents send ripples across the intel room. More codes, maps, hidden operatives still embedded in airline systems. Camilla kneels and rubs Rocky's shoulder. "You never miss a thing, do you?" she whispers, and for the first time in days, she lets herself smile. Just a little. Days later, under a vast sky painted in soft afternoon hues, a crowd gathers at the steps of the Federal Building. The American flag flutters behind a podium, lined with microphones and adorned with the FBI seal. Camilla stands tall but humbled, her uniform freshly pressed, her nerves tingling not from fear, but pride. Rocky sits beside her, tail resting still, head lifted high as if sensing something important. As the director of the FBI announces Rocky's name, the crowd erupts in applause. Camilla gently squeezes the fur behind Rocky's ear, her voice low but trembling with emotion as she whispers, "That's you, partner. That's all you." On the screen behind them, looping footage of Rocky stopping Campbell plays silently, a visual symbol of the fine line between ordinary and disaster, and how one canine's instinct saved over 1,000 lives. Rocky receives the Medal of Valor for Distinguished Service, his paw pressed into an ink pad for the honorary certificate. A small gesture, but one that moves the entire crowd. Camilla raises Rocky's paw toward the cameras as the audience stands in ovation. For a moment, in the middle of national headlines, airport panic, and global threats, there is stillness, reverence, and a reminder that even in chaos, heroes come in all forms, sometimes with 4 legs and a nose that never lies. The LAX terminal gleams under the afternoon light as travelers move with practiced urgency, rolling suitcases echoing like soft drums. Security lines buzz with the quiet hum of routine, and above it all, Camilla stands once again at her post, this time with a sense of calm and completion. There's a softness in her eyes, a peace hard-earned. Though fatigue clings to the corners of her face, there's a proud fire still burning inside, one that knows the world is a little safer today. Rocky trots beside her, his harness adjusted neatly, his movements fluid and alert. He pauses briefly at a checkpoint, tail swishing, then looks up at Camilla with those unwavering eyes, always watching, always ready. A mother with 2 children walks by and whispers, "That's the dog who saved all those people." And though it's said softly, it lingers in the air like a prayer, a quiet honor etched in ordinary space. Camilla nods politely, but she doesn't slow. Instead, she adjusts her belt, checks her radio, and continues down the concourse with Rocky, the bond between them stronger than ever. As they pass Gate 14, Rocky glances back once more, just a flicker of instinct. Camilla smiles and murmurs, "Let's go, partner." And together they disappear into the crowd, guardians unseen, but never unfelt.